Chief Archaeologist Daho's heart raced as he stood in the dimly lit chamber, his scaled skin reflecting the strange blue glow from the ancient walls. His four-fingered hand trembled as he traced the unfamiliar symbols etched deep into the stone. The temple complex on Nexus VII, a planet on the outer rim of the Galactic Council's territory, had been his research site for the past 6 months. But today was different. Today, everything changed. The air was thick with dust, and the sweet scent of preservation chemicals used to protect the ancient writings. Around him, floating light orbs cast dancing shadows on walls that hadn't seen light in millennia. His team had uncovered many chambers in this vast underground complex, but this particular room made his professional detachment waver. Senior Researcher Han Bin. His voice echoed through the chamber, bouncing off the curved ceiling, and creating an eerie chorus of his own call. "I need you here immediately." The soft sound of footsteps and rustling robes announced Han Bin's arrival before she appeared in the doorway. Her ceremonial research robes, marking her as a senior member of the Archaeological Institute, swept the dusty floor as she hurried to join him. The gems on her head crest caught the light, creating tiny rainbows on the ancient walls. "What have you found, Chief?" Han Bin asked, already pulling out her scanner. The device hummed to life, casting a bright blue beam across the wall's surface. The strange markings seemed to pulse in response, as if awakening from a long slumber. "These glyphs," Daho pointed with a trembling finger. "They're unlike anything we've seen before. Some appear to be mathematical formulas, but others..." He trailed off, letting Han Bin conduct her own analysis. Han Bin's eyes widened as her scanner processed the symbols. "Chief, these markings appear in multiple dead languages. The same symbol keeps repeating across different writing systems." She paused, double-checking her results. "According to the translation matrix, it means human." The discovery was too important to keep quiet. Within days, Daho found himself standing before the full Galactic Council. The Grand Chamber, with its soaring crystal dome and floating platforms for each member species, had always impressed him. Today, however, he barely noticed the spectacular architecture. The 17 council representatives, each from a different spacefaring species, watched in stunned silence as he presented his findings. His holographic projections filled the chamber center, showing not just his discovery, but similar findings from 3 other worlds across the galaxy. "Honorable council members," Daho said, his voice steady despite his nervousness. "What we found goes against everything we thought we knew about galactic history. These temples contain references to beings called humans in multiple ancient languages, some dating back millions of years before our earliest recorded histories." A cephalopod counselor's tentacles rippled with interest. Could these be merely mythological references? Many ancient cultures created stories about powerful beings. "That's what we thought at first," Daho replied, changing the holographic display to show detailed scans. "But look at these mathematical formulas. They describe technologies far beyond our current understanding, and they appear identical across sites separated by vast distances and time periods." Han Bin stepped forward, adding her expertise. "The writing systems are different, but the content is the same. These humans were described as teachers, guides, and sometimes as warnings. They appeared to multiple species during their development, provided knowledge, and then vanished." The chamber erupted in worried whispers. A crystalline elder chimed in, their voice creating harmonics that express deep concern. "Are you suggesting that an unknown species influenced the development of multiple civilizations?" "Not just influenced," Daho said, projecting his final piece of evidence. "According to these texts, they may have been responsible for our very existence. And there's more. The dating of these sites suggests these humans were active in our galaxy long before any of our civilizations achieved spaceflight." The council chamber fell into complete silence. Representatives who had been bitter enemies for generations now found themselves united in shock. If Daho's findings were correct, everything they thought they knew about their place in the galaxy was wrong. A small light began blinking on Daho's datapad. New information was still coming in from other research teams. As he read the incoming data, his scales paled to a lighter shade. "Council members," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "we're receiving reports of similar discoveries from 7 more worlds. The pattern, it's everywhere. We've been living in their shadow all along, and we never knew it." The implications were staggering. Somewhere out there, these humans might still exist. And if they did, what would it mean for the galaxy? The question hung in the air, unspoken but weighing on every mind in the chamber. The age of certainty was over. The age of discovery, true discovery, had just begun. Research Director Sujin's office was a maze of holographic displays, each showing different archaeological sites from across the galaxy. She had barely slept in the past week, working tirelessly to compile the growing mountain of evidence. The gentle hum of quantum processors filled the room as they analyzed data from the 12th dig site. Sujin rubbed her tired eyes, their natural bioluminescence dimmed from exhaustion. The patterns she was seeing were impossible to ignore. Every site, spanning millions of years of galactic history, told the same story. She checked the results one final time before sending her findings to the council. The council chamber was packed when she arrived. Word had spread about new discoveries, and representatives from every member species crowded the observation galleries. Sujin noticed even the normally reclusive vapor beings had sent delegates, their containment spheres floating near the ceiling. "Director Sujin," the council leader's voice echoed through the chamber. "You may begin your presentation." She activated her holoprojector, and the chamber filled with images of ancient ruins. "Honorable council members, what I'm about to show you will change our understanding of galactic history forever." The first image zoomed in, showing detailed scans of technology far beyond current understanding. This is from the ruins on Nexus VII, dated approximately 3 million years ago. Now, observe this. She switched to another image. This is from the crystal caves of Atara, dated 7 million years ago. Gasps filled the chamber as the images overlapped. The technological signatures were identical. "Impossible," muttered senior diplomat Kita, his scales shifting from their usual green to a troubled orange. He rose from his seat, his ceremonial chains jingling. "You mean to tell us," he said, voice trembling with agitation, "that these humans appeared throughout our history, guided developing civilizations, and then vanished?" Sujin nodded, bringing up more evidence. "The evidence is irrefutable. These weren't myths or legends. They were records. Detailed, scientific records." She displayed a timeline, showing the appearances of these mysterious humans across different worlds. "Look at the pattern. They would appear to a developing civilization, share knowledge, guide their development, and then disappear. But they left behind technology that was centuries, sometimes millennia, ahead of what those civilizations could understand." A crystalline elder chimed in, their voice creating harmonious echoes. "But why? Why guide us, and then abandon us?" "That's the most interesting part," Sujin replied, bringing up new data. "According to our analysis, they didn't abandon anyone. Look at these energy signatures we've detected around the ruins. They're still active, still monitoring." The chamber erupted in worried murmurs. Kite's scales had turned almost white with shock. "Are you suggesting they're still watching us?" Sujin projected a galactic map with dozens of points highlighted. "These are all the sites we found so far. Each one contains active technology we can barely detect, let alone understand. And here's the most remarkable thing." She highlighted several sectors of space. "These are areas where our ships consistently malfunction or disappear. They perfectly align with the boundaries of ancient human territory." A vapor being's containment sphere descended to eye level. "You believe they are still here, among us?" "I believe they never left," Sujin said firmly. "I believe they've been guiding our development all along, waiting for us to reach a certain point, and I believe we're approaching that point now." She brought up one final piece of evidence, A recently decoded message found repeated across multiple sites. The ancient text glowed in the center of the chamber. When you are ready, you will find us. Or perhaps we will find you. Keita stood again, his scales now showing spots of multiple colors, a sign of extreme emotional disturbance. Director, what are you suggesting we do with this information? Su-jin took a deep breath. I'm suggesting we stop looking backward and start looking forward. These beings, these humans, they're not just part of our past. They're out there, right now. And I believe they're waiting for us to figure that out. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Everything they thought they knew about their place in the galaxy, about their own histories, had to be reevaluated. They weren't alone in the galaxy. They never had been. And somewhere out there, watching and waiting, were the beings who had guided them all along. We need to establish a contact protocol, Su-jin continued. We need to prepare for the possibility that they might reveal themselves, or that we might find them. Either way, we need to be ready. As the council members discussed the implications, Su-jin noticed something odd on one of her displays. The energy signatures from the ruins were getting stronger, as if something or someone had just become very interested in their conversation. The pattern wasn't just emerging anymore, it was becoming clear. And somewhere out there, humans were watching, waiting to see what their children would do with this knowledge. Chief Archivist Jin Woo stared at his quantum computer display in disbelief. After 3 months of non-stop work, running countless decryption algorithms, the ancient text had finally yielded its secrets. His hand shook as he read the decoded message again, hardly daring to believe what he was seeing. The message room in the archives was silent except for the soft hum of quantum processors. Holographic symbols floated in the air around him, casting a soft blue glow on his face. He had been so focused on his work that he hadn't noticed the artificial sun cycle had completed 3 times. Computer, verify translation accuracy again, he commanded, his voice hoarse from lack of use. The quantum system hummed louder, its crystalline processors glowing brighter as it processed the request. Translation accuracy confirmed at 99.97%. The computer responded, cross-referenced with all known linguistic databases and archaeological findings. Jin Woo sat back in his chair, running his fingers through his disheveled hair. This wasn't just another historical document. This was the truth about everything, about all of them. He pressed the emergency council alert button. Within minutes, his communication screen lit up with the face of the council leader. Chief Archivist, this had better be important, the leader said, clearly annoyed at being disturbed during rest cycle. Call an emergency council session. Jin Woo replied, his voice steadied despite his racing heart. What I found changes everything. 2 hours later, Jin Woo stood before the fully assembled Galactic Council. Even the normally absent Quantum Collective had sent representatives, their energy forms flickering in specially designed containment fields. Honorable Council members, Jin Woo began, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. 3 months ago, we discovered references to humans in ancient texts across the galaxy. Today, I can tell you who they really were. He activated his presentation system, and the chamber filled with holographic text and images. The messages we found weren't just records or historical documents. They were a message, left specifically for us to find when we were ready. Jin Woo highlighted specific sections of text. Humans weren't just visitors or guides as we initially thought. They were the first ones, the original spacefaring race in our galaxy. The chamber erupted in whispers and exclamations. A representative from the Silicon consciousness raised their crystalline form. Impossible. Our astronomical data shows the galaxy is billions of years old. No species could survive that long. That's where it gets interesting, Jin Woo replied, bringing up new data. Their technology didn't just surpass ours. It operated on principles we can barely comprehend. The evidence suggests they had mastered manipulation of space, time, and matter itself. He projected a series of mathematical equations. These formulas describe technologies that make our most advanced achievements look primitive. But here's the most shocking part. They didn't just guide civilization. They created it. The council chamber fell completely silent. Jinwoo continued, his voice now barely above a whisper, yet heard by all. They seeded life throughout the galaxy, every one of us. Our species, our worlds, our very existence, was carefully planned and cultivated by them. A vapor being's containment sphere pulsed with agitation. Are you suggesting we are some sort of experiment? No, Jinwoo replied, bringing up the final section of the decoded message. We're their children, all of us. Different species, different worlds, but all part of their grand plan to fill the galaxy with life and consciousness. The council chambers descended into chaos. Representatives argued, some denying the possibility, others demanding more proof. Centuries of assumed history, religious beliefs, and origin stories crumbled in moments. Jinwoo raised his voice above the din. There's more. The message includes coordinates, locations where we can find more information. And he paused, ensuring he had everyone's attention. Instructions for how to contact them. The chaos stopped instantly. Every being in the chamber turned to face him. They're still out there, Jinwoo continued, watching, waiting. The message says they've been guiding our development from the shadows, preparing us for the day we'd be ready to join them. The council leader's voice trembled as they asked, and are we ready? Jinwoo looked at the final lines of the decoded message. According to this, the fact that we've managed to decode their message means we're approaching readiness. But they left the final choice to us. We can either reach out to them or continue on our own path. As the council debated their next move, Jinwoo noticed something strange. The quantum computers were picking up unusual energy signatures, similar to those found at the ancient sites. Somewhere out there, their creators were watching, waiting to see what their children would choose. The truth was out now. The only question that remained was, what would they do with it? Fleet Commander Yu Jin's tail twitched nervously as she stood on the bridge of the research vessel, Eternal Dawn. The massive view screen before her displayed ancient star charts recovered from the ruins, overlaid with modern navigational data. The difference between the two was striking. Entire sectors of space, marked as restricted on the ancient maps, were completely empty on current charts. 3 previous expeditions had ventured into these sectors. None had returned. The council had almost canceled this mission, but Yu Jin had convinced them. This was their last chance to make contact. Status report, she called out, her scaled hands clasped behind her back. Navigation Officer Min Ki looked up from his console, his bioluminescent spots glowing with nervous energy. All systems nominal, Commander. We're holding position at the boundary of the restricted sector. The bridge crew worked silently at their stations. Everyone knew what was at stake. After the revelations about humanity's role in their development, the Council had authorized this final attempt at contact. Engineering. Report. Yu Jin commanded. Engines at full power, Commander. Chief Engineer Duhan replied from below decks. Quantum shields are holding stable. All emergency systems stand ready. Yu Jin studied the crew. They were the best the Council could offer. Representatives from 7 different species, each chosen for their expertise. The Eternal Dawn itself was a marvel of engineering, incorporating technology from all Council races. Science Officer Sunmai, what do your readings show? The crystalline officer's facets sparkled as she analyzed her displays. Energy patterns similar to those found at the ruins, Commander. They're stronger here. Something is definitely out there. Yu Jin took a deep breath. This was it. The moment that would either make history or add them to the list of vanished expeditions. Navigation Officer Min Ki, take us in, she ordered. All sensors at maximum. Everyone on high alert. The Eternal Dawn glided forward, crossing the invisible boundary into uncharted space. Immediately, the ship's systems began detecting unusual readings. Commander, Sun's crystalline form vibrated with excitement. Massive energy signature detecting. Something's approaching our position. The view screen flickered, showing a distortion in space ahead of them. It started small but grew rapidly, like a ripple in reality itself. All hands, battle stations, Yujin commanded. But do not, I repeat, do not power weapons unless I give the order. The bridge crew watched in amazement as the distortion grew larger. Space itself seemed to bend and fold, revealing something massive emerging from what appeared to be another dimension. Energy readings off the scale, Sunmai reported. The technology level, it's beyond anything in our database. Minki's bioluminescent spots were pulsing rapidly. Commander, our engines just shut down. All propulsion systems are offline. Remain calm, Yujin ordered, though her own heart was racing. This is what we came for. This is first contact. The massive object finally emerged completely. It was unlike anything they had ever seen. A structure that seemed to defy the laws of physics, its surface shifting and flowing like liquid metal, but harder than any known material. We're being scanned, Sunmai announced. The energy signature, it matches the ones from the ruins perfectly. Commander, these are definitely the humans. Suddenly, all the ship's displays went dark. Then, one by one, they came back online, showing completely different information. The ancient star charts were gone, replaced by new maps showing thousands of previously hidden systems. They're giving us their star charts, Minki whispered in awe. A new signal appeared on the communication console. It was using frequencies the ship's computers shouldn't have been able to detect, yet somehow they were receiving it perfectly. Commander, Communications Officer Hei-yun called out, her tentacles writhing with excitement. We're receiving a transmission. It's in all known council languages simultaneously. Yujin straightened her uniform. This was the moment that would change galactic history forever. Put it through, she ordered. The bridge speakers came to life with a voice that somehow managed to sound both alien and familiar at the same time. Greetings, children of the galaxy. We've been expecting you. The crew stood frozen, barely breathing, as the voice continued. You have finally reached the level of development where contact is possible. Welcome to the true galaxy, young ones. There is so much more for you to learn. Yujin found her voice at last. This is Fleet Commander Yujin of the Galactic Council vessel Eternal Dawn. We come seeking knowledge of our origins. There was a pause, and then the voice returned, warm with what seemed like pride. And that, Commander, is exactly why you succeeded where the others failed. You came seeking knowledge, not power. Please prepare your crew. We have much to show you. As the massive structure began to move closer to their ship, Yujin realized that their real journey was just beginning. The search was over, but the discoveries, the true discoveries, were about to begin. The crew of the Eternal Dawn stood transfixed as the massive vessel before them continued its impossible transformation. The hull rippled and flowed like mercury, yet sensors indicated it was harder than any known material in the galaxy. Light seemed to both reflect off and pass through it simultaneously, creating patterns that made the mind struggle to comprehend what it was seeing. Senior diplomat Du Hyun felt his secondary heart beginning to race as he stepped forward on the bridge. His scales shifted color with barely contained excitement. This was the moment his entire species, indeed all species in the council, had been waiting for. Commander Yujin, he whispered, are we recording everything? Every sensor we have is active, she replied, her own tail twitching with nervous energy. Though half of them are reporting readings that our computers claim are impossible. The human vessel was easily 3 times the size of the Eternal Dawn, yet it moved with impossible grace. As they watched, portions of its hull became transparent, revealing glimpses of internal structures that seemed to operate on principles that defied known physics. A soft chime echoed through the bridge, announcing an incoming transmission. The sound made several crew members jump. This is human observation vessel Sierra. A voice announced in perfect council standard, without even the slightest accent or digital distortion. "We've been expecting you." Do-hyun stepped forward, his diplomatic training taking over despite his racing hearts. "I am Senior Diplomat Do-hyun of the Galactic Council. You've been expecting us." "Of course," the voice replied, carrying a hint of what might have been amusement. "We've been watching your progress for quite some time. Your discovery of our archives was right on schedule." The bridge crew exchanged glances. On schedule. Do-hyun's scales shifted to a pale blue of surprise. "You've been here all along, watching us." "We never left," came the reply. "We simply waited until you were ready. And now you are." The human ship's hull shifted again, opening what appeared to be a docking port that perfectly matched the Eternal Dawn's specifications. "How do they know our docking protocols?" Navigation Officer Min-ki whispered. "We know everything about your vessel." The human voice responded, apparently having heard the whispered question. "We helped guide the development of much of your technology, after all, though you've made some fascinating innovations of your own." Commander Yoo-jin stepped forward to stand beside Do-hyun. "You've been guiding our development. All of our species." "In a way," the voice replied. "Think of it as parents watching their children learn to walk. We provided guidance when needed, but the achievements are very much your own." The viewing screen shifted, showing images of various council worlds throughout their history. In each one, there were subtle signs of human presence, technologies that appeared ahead of their time, mysterious benefactors who provided crucial knowledge at key moments. "Your invitation to dock is open," the human voice continued. "We have much to discuss. Though we should warn you, what you learned today will change your understanding of everything." Do-hyun turned to Commander Yoo-jin. "Protocol dictated that such decisions be made jointly between diplomatic and military leadership." She nodded slowly. "We accept your invitation," Do-hyun announced, trying to keep his voice steady despite his excitement. As the Eternal Dawn carefully maneuvered toward the docking port, the human ship's hull continued its mesmerizing dance. Up close, they could see patterns in the flowing metal, mathematics, music, and art all expressed in ways they had never imagined possible. "The docking process is completely automated," Min-ki reported with surprise. "Their systems have interfaced with ours perfectly. It's like they designed both." "In a way, we did," the human voice replied. "Though you've taken our initial designs in fascinating new directions. Your quantum interface protocols, for instance, are quite elegant." The ships connected with a soft thud, and the airlock systems engaged automatically. Do-hyun felt his scales tingling with anticipation. They were about to meet the beings who had shaped their civilization, who had watched and guided them for millions of years. "We're ready to receive your representatives," the human voice announced. "And please, don't be nervous. This is a reunion, not a first meeting. We've always been here, watching our children grow. Now it's time for us to know each other properly." As Do-hyun prepared to lead the contact team through the airlock, he couldn't help but wonder what these beings would look like, what secrets they held, and most importantly, what this meant for the future of all council species. They were about to find out why they had been guided for so long, and what role they would play in the greater galaxy. The airlock cycled, and the door began to open. The moment of true first contact had arrived. The Grand Council chamber had never been so full. Every available space was occupied by representatives from across the galaxy. Even the energy beings, who rarely attended in person, had their containment spheres floating near the crystal dome. The air hummed with tension and anticipation. Human Representative James Park stood at the center of the chamber, his simple dark suit standing in stark contrast to the elaborate ceremonial garments of the council members. Despite being surrounded by beings of various shapes, sizes, and compositions, he appeared completely at ease. Council leader Mireille watched him from her elevated position, her scales shifting colors with barely contained emotion. The past week had been a whirlwind of revelations since the return of the Eternal Dawn. Now finally, they would hear the full truth. Honored members of the Galactic Council, Park began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber without any need for amplification. What I'm about to share will fundamentally change your understanding of not just your history, but your place in the universe. He gestured, and the chamber filled with holographic displays showing countless worlds, species, and civilizations. Your civilizations were not accidents, he explained, his words causing ripples of movement through the assembled delegates. We seeded the galaxy with life, guided evolution, and watched you grow. We remained hidden not out of fear or malice, but to allow you to develop independently. Myra's scales flickered between shades of blue and green as she processed this information. Around her, other council members showed their own signs of agitation. The crystalline beings vibrating at unusual frequencies, the vapor beings' containment spheres pulsing with intense light. Park continued, moving through the holographic display. Each of your species was carefully planned, your world specifically chosen and prepared. We introduced the basic building blocks of life, then guided the evolutionary process to create beings capable of consciousness, intelligence, and most importantly, choice. A quantum collective representative's energy form flickered intensely. Why? For what purpose? Park smiled gently. Because the universe is vast, and life is precious. We had the power to create, to nurture, to guide. But we also had the wisdom to know that true growth requires independence. He brought up new images, showing ancient human vessels watching over developing worlds. We were there from the beginning, watching over you like parents watching their children take their first steps. When you struggled, we helped. Subtly, always from the shadows. When you succeeded, we celebrated, though you never knew we were there. Myra found her voice at last. The restricted sectors of space. Our observation posts, Park confirmed. Places where we could watch and protect without interfering. The ships that disappeared there weren't destroyed. They were turned away, their memories adjusted, to protect you until you were ready. The chamber erupted in discussion. Park waited patiently until the noise subsided. You might wonder why we're revealing ourselves now. The answer is simple. You're ready. Your civilizations have reached a point where you can understand not just the how of your creation, but the why. He gestured again, and a holographic display showed the current galactic map. You've built something remarkable. The Galactic Council. Different species working together, resolving conflicts through dialogue, sharing knowledge and resources. You've proven that our faith in you was well placed. Myra's scales had settled into a deep purple of profound thought. What happens now? She asked, voicing the question on everyone's mind. Park's expression became even warmer. Now we can finally know each other as equals. We have so much to share with you. Technology, knowledge, history. But more importantly, we have so much to learn from you. Each of your species has developed in unique and beautiful ways we never could have predicted. He paused, looking around the chamber. We're not here to rule or command. We're here to welcome you into a larger family. The galaxy is vast, and there's so much more to explore together. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Centuries of religious beliefs, origin myths, and scientific theories were being rewritten in a single moment. Yet somehow, it felt right. Like pieces of a puzzle finally fitting together. A young delegate from a newly admitted species raised their appendage. But what about our independence? Our free will? Park's response was immediate and firm. That remains absolutely yours. We created you, yes, but what you've become, that's entirely your achievement. Your choices, your struggles, your triumphs, they're all yours. We're not here to direct your future. We're here to walk alongside you as you discover it. Myra looked around the chamber, seeing the mix of emotions on display. Fear, excitement, confusion, hope, all perfectly natural responses to such a monumental revelation. But underlying it all was a sense of rightness, of coming home. There is so much more to share, Park concluded. But for now, know this, you were never alone. You were always loved, always protected, always meant for great things. And now finally, we can tell you that ourselves. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of voices, each species trying to process this revelation in their own way. Mayray sat back in her chair, her scales settling into a calm blue. Everything they knew had changed, yet somehow it felt like they were finally seeing the truth that had been there all along. The grand signing ceremony was moments away, and Council President Era found herself adjusting her ceremonial robes for the third time. The past year had brought changes that would have seemed impossible before. The integration of humanity into galactic society had progressed with remarkable smoothness, defying even the most optimistic predictions. Technical Lays and Jiho stood nearby, his presence as calming as always. Over the past year, he had become a familiar figure in the council chambers, patiently explaining advanced technologies and helping societies adapt to new knowledge at their own pace. His human appearance, once so alien, now seemed as natural as any other species in the chamber. "Are you ready, Madam President?" Jiho asked, holding the ancient ceremonial pen that would be used for the signing. The pen itself was a gift from humanity, a seemingly simple object that contained technology beyond current understanding, yet designed to work perfectly with all known forms of writing. Era nodded, her scales shifting to a confident gold color. The chamber was filled to capacity, with representatives from every known spacefaring species in attendance. The floating platforms held delegates of all shapes and sizes, from the crystalline beings who chimed their thoughts, to the vapor species in their containment spheres, to the quantum collectives whose energy forms sparkled with excitement. The Human Integration Treaty represents more than just a diplomatic agreement, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. It marks the beginning of a new chapter in galactic history. She glanced at the document before her. Its contents have been carefully negotiated over the past year, ensuring that all species would benefit from humanity's knowledge, while maintaining their independence and cultural identity. The humans had been remarkably patient, never pushing, always willing to explain and adjust their approach based on each species' needs. Jiho stepped forward, his human warmth radiating as he spoke. "We've seen remarkable progress this year. The medical advances alone have improved lives across 17 systems, and that's just the beginning. Indeed, the changes have been profound but carefully managed. Humans had shared technologies that seemed like magic, but always with detailed explanations and careful consideration of their impact. They taught not just the how, but the why, ensuring true understanding rather than simple dependency." Era picked up the ceremonial pen. Its weight felt significant in her hand, much like the moment itself. As she began to sign, she remembered the past year's achievements. The first joint Human Council research projects, the opening of restricted sectors for collaborative exploration, the establishment of cultural exchange programs. "With this signature," she announced, her scales now glowing with a bright, confident blue, "we officially recognize humanity, not just as our creators, but as our partners in building a greater future." The pen moved smoothly across the document, leaving behind script that somehow appeared perfectly legible to every species present. As she finished, she caught Jiho's approving smile. A human expression she had come to understand meant genuine pleasure and pride. "The age of isolation is over," she declared to the assembled delegates. "Together, we step into a new era of cooperation and advancement." The chamber erupted in a symphony of approval. Chimes from the crystalline beings, light pulses from the vapor species, energy waves from the quantum collectives, and traditional applause from the biological species. It was a moment of true unity, different species expressing joy in their own unique ways. Jiho stepped forward to add his own signature to the document, his movements deliberate and respectful. "This isn't just about technology or knowledge," he said. "It's about family. About all of us, every species, working together to explore the universe we share." Era looked out over the chamber, seeing the future in the faces and forms before her. Humans stood among the other species now, not as distant creators, but as fellow travelers on the grand journey of exploration and discovery. The ancient prophecies had indeed been fulfilled, but this wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. As the ceremony concluded, she noticed something remarkable. The various species weren't segregated as they had been in the past. They were mingling, talking, sharing ideas. Humans were engaged in animated discussions with vapor beings about quantum physics, while crystalline entities chimed their poetry for appreciative biological audiences. "This is what we hoped for," Jiho said quietly, standing beside her. "Not just acceptance, but true integration. Each species bringing their unique perspectives and abilities to create something greater than the sum of its parts." Aira's scales shifted to a deep, satisfied purple. The future stretched out before them, full of possibilities they were only beginning to imagine. The galaxy wasn't just their home anymore, it was their shared adventure. And as the celebrations began in earnest, she knew that this truly was just the beginning. The real journey, the exploration of what they could achieve together, was just starting. The age of isolation was over, and the age of unity had begun.